Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. Letting go doesn't mean pretending that it didn't hurt. It simply means releasing your attachment to something that's controlling your nervous system, your identity, and your choices. Hello friend, if you're new to this channel, my name is Ramya, and on this channel we talk about all the ways in which you can heal and step into your most authentic self so that you can live out your purpose on this planet. I've created a free authenticity workbook for you, which has very powerful prompts that if you journal and work through, you will discover a new side to you that will help you step into your authenticity even more. Today's video is all about letting go. We've all heard the term let go, but what does it really mean? So we're going to dive into that, and we're going to see three very powerful ways in which you can let go and how that makes you super magnetic and super attractive. But the disclaimer is you're not really doing it to become attractive or to become magnetic, because that's exactly what the point of this whole video is, right? You're letting go of the need for validation. You're letting go of the need to be attractive. It just happens as a side effect of you being unbothered and you truly releasing all the things that don't serve you and that don't allow you to live in peace and live in flow. So you're letting go of other people's opinions, you're letting go of past traumas, you're letting go of past experiences, you're letting go of what you've been conditioned to believe you should be, you're letting go of everything that doesn't serve you. When you truly let go, your self-worth, your power, your peace, they don't really rely on needing to prove yourself to someone, needing to be liked, needing external validation, needing somebody else to change, needing your past to change, or needing anything that's beyond your control to change, because you know that you have everything you need to live the peaceful, self-assured, self-confident life that you want to be leading. You're going to be unbothered at a whole new level, and this is going to make you super attractive. So let's get into it. Now let's look at three ways in which you can let go that'll make you attractive AF. Again, let me remind you, this is not the reason why you're letting go. It just is a beautiful side effect of being completely and utterly unbothered. So the first one is to let go of external validation. Now, before we see how we can let go of external validation, let's see how it even came about to be and why so many of us are so hooked on to external validation. So as you know, human beings are social creatures. Earlier, we used to live in tribes, and if our tribes did not accept us, it would mean that we would be ostracized and left to die alone in the forest. So now as children, we don't have any idea or concept of self-worth, and we don't have any idea about ourselves. And the only way we know we are accepted into our society, into our immediate surroundings, is by looking at the feedback we're getting from our caregivers or the people that are around us. It could be a sibling, it could be your parents, it could be your teachers. And that's where external validation was even born. Our self-worth got linked to how others responded to us, and that's exactly where external validation was born. If people clapped for us, we knew that behavior was accepted. If we won a prize in something, we knew that we were good at something. And if our parents praised us and told us how lovable and loved we are, we knew we were individuals who can be loved and who were lovable and had traits that were appealing to the society. Okay? Now, your brain is wired to seek belonging even if the environment is toxic, which is why if you were in an environment, in your childhood where your parents were really not giving you that validation, where they were not telling you that you were loved. In fact, they were just telling you that you're a burden, that you're a curse, and they made you feel like you don't really belong or that you're not really important. As you grow up, you'll start looking for validation from other people who treat you in the same way. So even if there are 100 people who tell you you're lovable, that you're worthy, and that they love you, you will still chase love from that unavailable person, that emotionally distant person, because that is what is familiar to your brain. Your brain is used to looking for love from unavailable parents or unavailable caregivers, that it feels that only if it has to work for that love, or only if it works for that attention, that then that means it's truly like something meaningful. Okay, so the brain keeps you stuck in toxic patterns because it feels familiar. The brain always chooses safety, and safety to it means familiar patterns as opposed to breaking those patterns and looking for something new. This is why there's a lot of healing involved in breaking this pattern of seeking love from toxic partners, or seeking love from avoidant partners or unavailable partners, or even bosses or friendships or whatever it is. Okay, so this is something I truly struggled with while growing up. My parents were amazing. They gave me everything I needed to survive financially. They put me in the best school. They gave me all the resources I needed, even though they were struggling at that time. But the one thing that they really lacked was giving me emotional stability. And as a highly sensitive and as a very, very emotional child, all I needed was them to tell me that I was worthy, for them to tell me that they loved me, for them to hug me. But that was just not in their world. It was a dimension that they never really had. So I totally don't blame them for it. But as a child, that kind of shaped my understanding of how lovable I am. So as I grew up, I started seeking validation from every unattainable source possible, and this validation sort of became like a drug for me. If I didn't get it, I would completely spiral down. I would feel that I'm not good enough. I would feel that nobody likes me, that I'm not beautiful enough, that I'm not talented enough. And this was a pattern that I had to work very, very hard to break in order to step into my self-love and step into my self-worth. Okay, so if you are in that pattern, recognize that it's because it's something that is familiar to the brain. It's not the right thing. Okay. So in the brain, there is this part called the anterior cingulate cortex that lights up when you feel rejected, when you feel betrayed, when you feel somebody saying something mean to you. And this is the same part of the brain that lights up when you're in actual physical pain. This is why when someone doesn't respond to your text, or someone doesn't respond to your social media post, or someone doesn't respond to you in a public setting, or someone completely ignores you, your brain looks at it as you going through actual physical pain, because that's the center of the brain that gets lit up. And modern culture reinforces it constantly. We are all addicted to being on social media. We're all addicted to buying products that help us feel better, that help us feel like we belong. So if you look at social media, it trains your brain to look for notifications that say that you've got a comment, if you've got a like, or someone shared your post, someone's appreciating you, and all of that feels like amazing validation, such a dopamine high. And at the same time, when you don't get it, it lights up the anterior cingulate cortex part of your brain that makes your body believe that it's an actual pain. And that's why you get so upset, you get so anxious, you get so restless when you don't get responses to the post that you put up, or when you feel that people are not messaging you, they're not responding to you. And marketing companies are taking advantage of it left, right, center, right? They sell you products that make you feel more beautiful, more accepted, more talented, more intelligent, more so many things. And they are benefiting off of all of our complexes and all of our need for validation. So you see, all of that stuff that was birthed in our childhood is continuing even now as adults, where we're constantly doing things and we're constantly making ourselves fit into molds and masks that we truly are not, just to be accepted by people that we don't even particularly care about. So the need for validation activates the reward centers of the brain. Social media praises or likes act as a drug. The more we rely on external rewards, the weaker our internal sense of self becomes. And this is because when we rely on external rewards, we mold our personality to fit into what is accepted by the people we don't even particularly know. So when we do this for a long enough time, we lose the true essence of who we truly are. And internally, that results in chaos, and we start outsourcing our self-worth, outsourcing our self-love to people who don't even know us properly. So the letting go practice here is to give yourself predictable daily rewards. The brain doesn't know the difference between rewards that are coming externally versus rewards that are coming internally. All it cares about is that release of dopamine. So if you can give it to yourself, the brain perceives it as getting that acceptance or that like or that share internally, and this is a far more powerful way to reclaim your power and reclaim your self-worth. Okay, so one of the most powerful practices in this is something I do on a daily basis, and it makes an amazing difference. You do it for 21 days and you'll see that your life completely changes. You'll start attracting like all sorts of new people and new opportunities and everything. Okay, so take a piece of paper and write down 20 things that you appreciate about yourself. It can be something super simple. Okay, think about it like this. Don't think about anything on that list item as something too small to be included in that list. Think about it like this. Okay, so if you are having a cup of chai and you post a picture of this chai on Instagram and you get 10 likes, you feel really good, right? So similarly, write in your notebook that I made this amazing cup of chai that made me feel really good. Now this may seem like a small win, but to your brain, there is no difference between small and large. All it cares about is that you are getting enough wins and you are producing this beautiful dopamine in your system because you're so proud of yourself. Okay, 20 things, write it out. It can be something you did in the past, it can be something you did today, and every day you can even repeat the same items if you don't have anything new to write in your list. And after you write every single line item, feel that feeling of pride that you've accomplished it. So if you are going back to our tea example, if you are writing, I made this amazing cup of chai, close your eyes, feel into it. I'm so proud of myself. How many people in the world know to make a great cup of chai? I did it. I'm so happy. Okay, I'm self-sufficient in giving me this morning boost of energy. So feel into that feeling of gratitude, of love for yourself, of feeling really elated. And do this for 20 items on your list. Do this for at least 30 seconds per item. Okay? And do this for 21 days and you'll see your life change. So this kind of builds self-generated dopamine and it reinforces your internal self-worth loop instead of chasing external approval. The second practice is to let go of self-abandonment. In India, at least, this is considered a major virtue. They call it being humble. They call it like self-sacrifice, and for some reason, is celebrated. But every time you abandon yourself, you're telling your inner child, you're not important. That person outside is way more important than you. And the more you keep telling your inner child that it's not important, that it's not a priority, that child becomes quieter and quieter, keeps moving to the background. It starts feeling sadder and sadder, and it doesn't come to the forefront no matter what. And it always thinks that what anyone else and literally everyone else around it is saying is more important and more worthy than what it has to say. Here are some ways in which you abandon yourself. You say yes even though your body is screaming no. So if you have to go to a social situation, social function, and you really don't want to go because it makes you feel uncomfortable, there are people there who talk down to you and you don't really feel good about yourself. But for some reason, you say yes because you think that's the right thing to you. That is self-abandonment right there. When you apologize for having needs, I'm so sorry, but is it okay if I get like a second spoon of sugar? I'm so sorry, but is it okay if I eat now? I'm feeling really hungry. So when you're apologizing for your needs, your inner child feels that it's doing something wrong by speaking up for yourself. And over a period of time, it stops doing that because it feels that it's just being a burden on everyone else. Overgiving in the hope that people will choose you. So overgiving in relationships, really going out of your way and doing things for people even though they've not asked you to do it. And this is honestly something that a lot of people do in hope that the other person will recognize their worth and come back to them and tell them that, oh my God, you're so amazing and you've done this for me. But if that person has not asked you to do something and if you don't have the bandwidth to do it, nobody is going to appreciate that extra mile that you've gone for them. So if you are an overgiver in the hope that you're going to get something in return, again, this is not something that's good for your inner child. It looks at it as self-abandonment because you're stretching yourself thin for someone or something that has not even asked you for it. Watering yourself down in order to make others not feel uncomfortable. This is something a lot of high achievers do in families where there are other siblings that are not as competent or as accomplished as they are. They don't talk about their wins, they don't praise themselves, they really dilute their merits and think they're being humble, but what they're actually doing is they're telling themselves subconsciously that none of this matters. What you did was not a big deal. Let's make the other people feel comfortable so that we don't take the limelight away and we don't make them feel small. So all of these ways of self-abandonment, tell yourself that other people are more important than me. Everybody else is more important than me. And when you do this, people will stop treating you with respect because everyone treats you the way you treat yourself. So if you don't treat yourself like you're important, you're going to become a wallflower in everybody else's life as well. They're not going to look at you as an important person, and they're going to treat you exactly the way you treat yourself. So when you overextend yourself in order to be an overgiver, in order to be somebody who's so self-sacrificial and martyr-like, your brain goes into an extreme stress mode, fight or flight mode, because it's trying so hard to be accepted. There is this constant need for it to feel that it's being useful, to feel that the other person is getting some benefit out of it, that it's not really relaxed, it's not in flow, it's constantly trying to do something all the time. And this agitated, very restless energy comes across. Have you noticed when you go to somebody's house and they're trying really hard to please you and they're trying really hard to give you the best foods, give you the best bed, take you out and do all of those things? It actually feels really overwhelming. Of course, they're doing it because they want you to feel comfortable, but you feel really uncomfortable. You're just like, just be yourself and let me be myself and let's just chill, right? So this is what happens when you're in that extreme let me please mode, where the other person senses it as some very icky, uncomfortable energy. So you're not doing yourself a favor, you're not even doing them a favor, and you're definitely not getting into their good books in any sense of the word. The letting go practice here is to train your nervous system by saying no to small things. Say no to an extra serving of rice. Say no to an outing that you don't want to go to. Say no when somebody asks you for something that you don't particularly want to engage in. So you're training your nervous system that nothing is going to happen if we say no and draw up boundaries. So when you say no and survive the guilt of discomfort, when you say no to smaller things, you're training your amygdala that conflicts don't equal danger. And over a period of time, setting boundaries for yourself feels safer. So start doing this today itself if you're somebody who's an overgiver. The third thing to let go of is to let go of attachments to what hurts. This means to releasing your emotional addiction to people or situations that constantly hurt you. A lot of times when somebody hurts you, you try to be the bigger person, not to make yourself feel better, but in order to prove something to the other person in the hope that they're going to come back and tell you that I'm really sorry, I realize my folly and I know that you're an amazing person. Please take me back in your life. Let's reconcile. So even if you're being a bigger person and apologizing to them and letting things go, I put this in quotes because you're not really letting it go. You're just thinking you're letting it go, but at the back of your mind, you are thinking you're letting it go in the hope that the other person will come back to you. So when you truly actually stop giving a damn about the other person and what they did to you and all of these stories that you've made around it about yourself, whenever something happens, you make a story about it in your head and make it mean something about yourself. I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy. I'm not important. And this is what hurts you. And this is what keeps you stuck in that story or that situation for so long. Okay. So when you release your emotional addiction to such people, you don't need them to come back and tell you anything. That's when you truly give yourself liberation and peace. Okay. Your brain is wired for familiarity. We've discussed this in the first point. It's not wired for happiness. So if something causes pain, if it's predictable, your emotional brain clings to it. And this is why people stay in toxic relationships. This is why people stay, because it feels consistent. The pain feels safe. It feels like something that you've dealt with before and you can deal with again. It's like the known devil versus the unknown angel kind of a situation. The known devil is always what is preferred by the brain. Okay? Your brain gets hooked onto the dopamine loop. When you're chasing somebody who's toxic or emotionally unavailable, even if they give you small crumbs of recognition or small crumbs of validation, you get so happy by it. You get really, really happy, only to have experience that crash again when they pull away again and go missing and give you radio silence all over again. But again, they'll come back one fine day and say something really small, even if they say, hey, how are you? Your brain takes it as like this insane validation, and again dopamine spikes. So your brain is addicted to this loop of dopamine highs and crashes, and that's why it stays stuck in situations that are not even good for you. You keep rationalizing to yourself, saying, maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe if I hold on a little longer, it'll change. Maybe the goodness of my heart and the love that I have to give will change this person. Maybe I am going to be the person who's going to come and save this person from their horrible, childhood patterns. They don't know any better. I'm the one who's going to come and save them. That maybe gives you a hit of dopamine, but it keeps you trapped. So let go of your attachment to such people, your attachment to needing that validation from sources where it's so difficult to come by from. The letting go practice here is to truly see, who would I be without this relationship? Who would I be without this constant mental trauma of trying to get this person's attention and feel disappointed all over again? How would life be different? What part of me have I been shrinking or silencing to stay connected to them? What would my energy, boundaries, creativity, joy, and confidence look like if I never had to manage their moods or chase their love again? These are very, very powerful journal prompts, and maybe when you journal on them the first time, it may not really sink deep, but sit with it for a period of time. Think about the answers that you've written down, and you'll slowly realize that you are being trapped in a prison that you've created for yourself, when you can just heal and move on and find better and more green flags in your life, in all areas of your life. Okay, now I said three ways of letting go, but I'm going to give you a bonus fourth point because this is also very, very important. And this is the need to let go of needing others to realize their mistakes. So a lot of times we hold so much resentment, so much unforgiveness, and we are constantly trying to prove to the other person that they have hurt us and they need to realize and they need to repent. But what we don't realize is we really don't have the power to change anybody's mind. They will change their mind according to their own timeline, so they may not. But by constantly having this need of making that person realize what they did was wrong, and that we were victimized and that we were in the, done wrong too, what we're doing is we're just giving our power away to some source where we have absolutely no control. So forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you. Forgiveness is not saying what they did was okay. What they did was not okay. It hurt you. Of course, it was not okay. But that incident has already happened and it's past and you've survived it. But you're carrying on the energy from it to your current life, to your future, and you're letting it affect every phase of your life. And it was just an incident that happened. You learned your lesson from it and you can move on. You can just discard it and move on. But instead, you're lugging it along with you like this big bag of bricks that you're not willing to put down because you think that at some point somebody is going to come and take these bricks away from you. The easier thing to do is to just drop the bag of bricks. You don't have to wait for someone to come and take it away from you. Okay, and only you have the power to do this for yourself. So letting go means dropping the story that you built from somebody else's brokenness. Understand that only hurt people hurt people. If that person has caused you hurt or harm, it can be because of two reasons. Okay, that person was also going through some sort of, trauma, some sort of brokenness. Healed people don't really go and hurt other people. Second reason that could have happened is because they were reflecting some part of you. They were being mirrors to some part of you that needed healing. So they have come and hurt you. So you wouldn't be hurt if there wasn't that trigger in you already. People just are messengers to the pain that already exists within you. So if somebody is coming and hurting you, instead of hurling stones back at them, look within you and see what part of you already exists that they were a mirror for, and heal that part of you so that you don't attract those patterns again and again. Thank them for being the mirror. So the letting go practice here is to see people through the lens of consciousness levels. They acted from their levels of awareness. They were hurt. They were broke. So they wanted to inflict pain on other people also. This rewires the brain to associate forgiveness with wisdom instead of weakness. You're not telling your brain that it's okay if people hurt me. You're telling your brain that I understand that they were not conscious when they operated. They were not at the highest level of consciousness when they did this to me. And as a person who has higher awareness now, I'm willing to let this go. Okay, your brain begins to release the emotional charge from the event, which is where true freedom lives. The second way to look at it is that they are messengers. Your souls had a contract so that you would learn the lesson that you were made to learn. So this shifts resentment to gratitude, and you see that person as somebody who's come down here to play the role of your messenger, who's here to give you a message. Imagine you put into practice all of these 4 letting go practices. Can you imagine how magnetic you will be when you absolutely are not trying to run after somebody for validation? You don't care what society tells you to do. You're just truly embodying your inner wisdom, your inner truth, and you're just living life according to what makes you happy, as long as it's not hurting somebody else physically or emotionally, as long as it fits into your moral compass, right? This makes you super, super attractive, and the best part is you wouldn't even care because you're busy being attractive to yourself. I hope this video was useful for you, and I would love to know your experience with letting go. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. It will really help the small channel grow, and it'll help the algorithm push this to more people who can benefit from content like this. And if you have any topics that you would like me to speak about, please mention it in the comments and I will do my best to address it. Okay, so I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.